So the title of my meditation tonight is, Do You Delight in the Word of God? Now the word delight is defined as a great pleasure. And this past week, we flew a few thousand miles in celebration of Paul and Naomi's wedding. And Paul was really delighted we were there and the fact that he was getting married. And the way you can tell was he had a certain smile on his face. He walked with joy, he had peace, he was happy. But I'm going to read from Psalm 1, if you could project it, verses 1 and verses 2, where the psalmist talks about a blessed man. Alright, so you guys can follow along with me. So it said, Blessed is a man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of wicked, nor sits in the seat of the scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. The main verse I want to focus on is verse 2, which is still up there. And it says this, But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. Now the word law of the Lord means Torah, which are the instructions and teachings of God. So you could also refer to this as the Word of God. So you can read verse 2 like this. But his, the blessed man's, delight is in the Word of God, and in the Word of God, the blessed man meditates day and night. Now I want to ask everyone a question. Do you delight in the Word of God? Do you get delight in hearing the Word of God? Does it bring you pleasure? When Frate Titi preached this morning, did it bring you pleasure when you heard it? When Frate Cristi preaches it tonight, will it bring you pleasure? Now, as believers, the Word of God is always a delight. It should always bring you pleasure when you hear it, when you read it, or when you follow it. Now, when you hear or read the Word of God, it's not just something that impacts you on the outside, but it impacts you internally, physically, inside. Now, delight in verse 2 is something that happens inside of us. It brings us internal joy, happiness, and it gives us pleasure. It's not something just physical. This is above and beyond doing something simple. Like when my mom tells me to go vacuum the room, and I do it because I want to obey her, but not because I enjoy it. I definitely don't. But the Word of God should be completely different from this. We should delight in reading the Word of God, not like I vacuum my room. Do you do it because you want to, or do you do it because you have to? Like, imagine having something we all delight in. For some of us, it's food. Others, it's money. Others, it could be vacation. And you can add on to this list of things you delight. But do we delight in the Bible? Does reading the Word of God and studying it bring pleasure like those other things? Now, the psalmist in Psalm 19, verses 9 and 10, describes how he finds delight in the Word of God. If you could put that up. Verses 9 and verses 10 in Psalm 19. Alright. I'm going to read 19, verses 9b through 10. It says this, The rules of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, even much more fine gold. Sweeter also they are than honey, and drippings of the honeycomb. I mean, can you guys believe that? For the psalmist, he found more delight in reading the Word of God, more pleasure than he does in food or money. And I think we should all strive to be like that, to be happy and joyful when we read the Word of God. Now, the last verse I wanted to look at was still verse 2 in Psalms, the second half of it, where it says, the blessed man meditates day and night on the Word of God. Now, to meditate means to think deeply or carefully about the Word. So, do you ever have conversations with your pastor about the Word of God? Do you meditate on the Word of God when you're in bed and you're just pondering on things that God puts in your heart? To help meditate, what I do is I love to memorize the Word of God. To pray is a big help too. And I would encourage each and every one of us to do that. My prayer is that all of us will be blessed people like the psalm describes, that all of us will find delight in the Word of God, that will bring us a great pleasure when we hear and when we read it. And I also pray that we find time to meditate on it, to think deeply and carefully on it. May God bless us all. Amen.